But
Well, I'm going to go ahead and start the intro so you have time to do that.
It's time for us to sit down at the table and turn this chaos into something stable. For love, one on one. We will not accept defeat, not on our land, not in our streets. Getting it done, reaching out to save the youth, letting them know the truth. Slim Nation is where good conversations dwell, positive affirmations well, make a strong nation as we spread the love. Slim Nation is where good conversation.
Well, good evening and welcome to the Slim Nations One-on-Ones podcast. And I'm here at a later evening. We're usually on in the morning at 8 a.m. But as I told you, we do alter those times to fit other schedules. So I'm pretty flexible there. But thank you for the ones that are joined now or hopefully will be joining this conversation. And I'm here with a special guest, a friend and a special guest of mine, former delegate, state delegate, Mathew James, and I still call him the Honorable Mathew James because once you obtain that title in my eyes, you never lose it. So the Honorable Mathew James is here with me. Hey, Mathew, how you doing?
I'm doing great. Great. How are you, sir?
I'm doing great too, man. Thank you for agreeing to come here. And I know you're a busy guy, even in sort of I call it semi-retirement. But just wanted to talk to you. We have these one-on-ones and we have these kind of try to run down or follow the journey of our guests that have been doing some things, great things in the state or in the city. And we try to go back a little bit and see, what makes them tick, what kind of influences they had at an early age. But Mathew is, of course, I mentioned when I first met him, he was the director of economic development for the city of Portsmouth. And I don't know, he probably had done something before then. He attended, what was it, Illinois? No, Northwestern University, and majored in economics, also Hampton University. Got that HBCU in there. But being at Northwestern, sort of some things changed your life there too. You met someone, but we'll get into that later. But anyway, he went there and on your Facebook page it has that you attended IC Norcom. Now you might want to go there and change that. But look, we'll give you a pass, Mathew, because both of your daughters attended IC Norcom. I remember telling you a long time ago, once your daughters or anybody in your family attends IC Norcom, you are officially a Greyhound. But anyway, you did attend Indian River High School. And especially since a lot of your older brothers and sisters attended the big rivals of my school, Booker T. But you had moved to Chesapeake by then, so you attended Indian River High School. So Mathew, let's and I want to work our way back up to what you're doing now. I also want to mention that you were elected official, and we'll talk about what made you decide to run for public office. And you've been appointed by the governor for state positions. And you in between, you've been a businessman, or entrepreneur, and then got another state appointment. And now you're on the EDA, the Economic Development Authority, sort of full circle. Of course, you have a different role in the Economic Development Department. Started out as director, now you're a part of the Economic Development Authority, which is a very important board that tries to bring in businesses or make things happen in the city of Portsmouth, economic-wise or business-wise. So, but you grew up in Norfolk, but you moved to Chesapeake. So I want to ask you, were there any kind of influences in your neighborhoods and your family that sort of led you, you end up going to college for economics. Were you a kind of a math guy or math nerd or what led you in that direction? Because economics is a whole lot of quantitative stuff.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, it was. I grew up I was born in Norfolk, as you said, youngest of six. Both of my parents worked at Norfolk State. They were on the custodial staff, and a lot of people still remember my mom. She was in charge of all of the cleaning and things in the nursing ed building. And we lived right across the street from Norfolk State on Corporal.
Wow.
Grew up, I was born in Liberty Park. And we, ever since I was younger, my parents always stressed education and put a focus on that, even when, they were working, because neither one of them were privileged, had the opportunity to go to college. So all six of us, they stressed that. And real quick story, they used to send all six of us down to work on my grandfather's farm in Bertie County, North Carolina. That convinced all six of us that we wanted to go to college, because we stayed there all summer. And it just focused, my parents focused, my older brothers and sisters focused on, get your education first and do what you need to do. And we had to study, and they were pretty much strict on how we needed to do. And I don't, growing up in Liberty Park or adjacent to Liberty Park, if you ever acted up in Liberty Park Elementary or in Jaycox, by the time you got home, your parents already heard about it.
Yeah.
Because it was a strong network. So, but, we moved to Chesapeake, as you said, and went to Chesapeake, and was one of the earlier classes. They had, the city council had decided to split Crestwood up, because I was supposed to go to Booker T.
Mm-hmm.
I was supposed to go to Crestwood, but they had divided Crestwood up into three parts. A third of the students that were targeted for Crestwood went to Indian River. The other third went to Great Bridge. The other third went to Deep Creek, on Oscar Scripps. I'm sorry. So I went there, and that was life-changing, because I really hadn't dealt with integrated school before then. But my education and my dad and my mom focused me on just making sure, not just basketball, you need to make sure you understand and study hard. And we did that. I did that. And I was lucky enough to my dad talked me into this. I spent a couple of years at the Naval Academy. And that was just a deal between he and I. Then I transferred to Hampton, as you said. Then Hampton, and I do a Hampton plug here. Hampton helped me in getting into summer programs. I took enough math classes at the Naval Academy so that I was a math minor coming out of Hampton, but I never took a math class there. But Hampton arranged for me to have a summer program at Northwestern University coming out of my sophomore year on the campus of Northwestern, studying under Dr. Marcus Alexis, focusing on economics and economic development. That was a wonderful, it was about 25 of us, all minorities. And we studied economics for the whole summer. And then the following summer, we had a follow-up program at Yale University. And I thank Hampton for giving me that input. And then when I was graduating, Hampton told me I needed to interview for this first scholar program, which it was a program not necessarily for all minorities, anybody who could get into Northwestern University or Chicago and getting in their MBA, and they would pay for that totally free, and you would work during the day. And that was how I got into the business side and the economic side. And I did that, graduated from Kellogg School, which is one of the top 5 schools in the country to this day. And I was just fascinated by economics. And then I worked in banking for 3 years, and I met my wife. She's a Chicagoan native,
Hmm.
and then got my worked at Kraft Foods, and then decided to come back to Virginia, and I took a job with Chesapeake in economic development as a deputy, and it took off from there. I worked there for 3 years as a deputy in Chesapeake. Was very successful, and then I took the job in Portsmouth. And I mean, I don't like to tell people this, but I was the first African American economic development director that they can find on record in the whole state of Virginia.
Yeah,
So
wow. I thought you were going to say the city of Portsmouth, but you said the whole state of Virginia. Wow.
yeah,
What a big accomplishment. And I think Portsmouth was lucky to get you, listening to all the things that led you up to applying for the job. I want to go back to the high school just for a minute because you mentioned that up until that point, you were mostly in all black schools.
hmm
So, you get to Indian River and you're dealing with integration. Now, you said you played basketball, and a lot of times I know it was a little easier for some of the basketball players sometimes, at least getting along with teammates, adjusting to all of a sudden you in a mixed environment. And you played, by the way, I think were you there in 73?
yep,
The reason I asked that because I see one of my uh, classmates that was there at Norcom in 73. His name is Fraser Nelson. And I see he's watching, you probably played against him. You probably played against him because
yeah.
I believe y'all were playing Norcom then. Yeah.
It was funny when we played Norcom because a lot of our players that don't look like us were quite intimidated.
Yeah, it was early because I remember when I first went to Norcom, it wasn't as and well, it was getting integrated then, and when we were going to the schools, the big competitions were going like to Booker T and Crestwood at the time, and the schools over in Newport News. But when we went to places like Deep Creek, I mean, they were just like amazing, all black team coming in there. You said the intimidation factor was there, not intended, but it was there.
Yeah,
Anyway, I thought I saw Frazier watching, so I thought I'd bring that up. Y'all probably played against each other that year, and I think that year they almost went to the state.
yeah.
I think Moses Malone got in the way. I think.
Well, we had a joke on our team, and it was how we called the state tournament at that time the Moses Malone Invitational.
Yeah. Yeah, but like I said, how was that adjustment for you? Was it and having that parent foundation, letting you know that you were just as good as anybody? I wouldn't imagine you were intimidated, but how was that adjustment getting along? All of a sudden, you in a different kind of environment, learning.
It was really challenging because we had on one hand we had all of the students that have come up through Crestwood, come
Right,
in River, and
and they were angry because they closed the school.
they were angry. And then you had folks at Indian River who had been there. They were angry that they were there. My junior year, the first year, they actually shut the school down because they found some guns in lockers. And but it was for me. It was more of an educational challenge. A quick story. The reason I probably ended up at the Naval Academy is I was in college prep all the way through Jaycox Junior
Hmm.
High. I had 3 years of French. I got to Indian River and I was a sophomore, and they put me in a class with seniors, and the teacher, I didn't understand what she was talking about, even though it was French.
Hmm.
So I wanted to transfer. I wanted to move, not take any more French because I knew I couldn't understand what they were doing or saying because the accents were different. So the only class I could get into was junior ROTC. So I did that, and that's how I got into on the colonel talked my dad into uh, getting me an appointment to the Naval Academy, and that was how that ended up happening there. And between me and a couple of other people. We were one of the first group of Black kids that had ever gotten an appointment to a service academy. Clarence Jones, who I think he went to Crestwood, he ended up going to the Air Force Academy,
Mhm.
graduating from there, and he was in my class of '73 as well.
Yeah,
But it,
so all that probably helped you later on, making that adjustment early, and then like going to the academy and then Northwestern, going away from home and prepare you. It wasn't like a culture shock then, because and people might not understand this, but the '70s and the early '70s, like that, in the late '60s, most of the uh, students that were in school, everybody was making that kind of adjustment because before that it was either white or black, so that adjustment had to be made, and it was good to get that adjustment because the real world was white and black. So
yeah, no, you're right. You're right, Slim, as usual. I mean, it was looking back on it, it was really good for me to do that. The ironic thing now is we've had several reunion meetings, and the group of us get along better now than we did in high school. So
life experiences, yeah.
yeah, it's been kind of funny for that one. We were talking about that the other day with uh, Frida Epps and some other folks that went to Crestwood, and I guess we just migrated to like each other better. But really, we just got to know each other better, to be
Yeah,
honest.
yeah, and all you knew coming into it was the environment you came from, so
Right, right,
or what you saw on TV. So
right.
I kind of experienced that too. So
Oh, did
yeah,
you? Okay.
so what were there any kind of influences in your neighborhood? I know that your parents were always a big influence on you, on all of us. But sometimes outside of our household, there are some influences that we see in the neighborhood or a teacher or something like that that sort of catches your attention. You say, uh, I think I want to go in that direction, or I want to make sure I do my best because this person has encouraged me, or I'm watching this person and see how they move, and it sort of helps you along the way. Was it anybody or anything that happened during those years that sort of also helped you develop into who you are today?
Oh yeah. I mean, I think that it was. I think that the fact that when we were growing up, when I was, especially before my parents were blessed to buy a house on Corporal, I can remember even after that there was a group of close knit friends and teachers that, gosh, who just basically focused on helping us be successful and getting things done right
Hmm.
and staying out of trouble. I remember we stayed right down the street from, and he's still a good friend of mine now. Uh, he's now a judge, Joe Lindsay and Lloyd Lindsay.
Hmm.
They were close friends of ours, but even though what people would call, um, how can I say it? People would call it projects. It was a close knit community, and we looked out for one another.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
I remember my mom stressing the fact that I think she was the top in her class in high school, but back at that time, women didn't go to college.
Yeah, you're right. You're right.
And she would always stress, well, you got to do what I could never have the opportunity to. Um, my brothers and sisters were very impactful, as well as my dad. In high school, I had so many great teachers at Liberty Park Elementary and at Jaycox. And then there was a couple of teachers, um, one in particular, African American teacher, and at Indian River, Mrs. Duke. I
Mm.
remember, she gave us the first day. If you don't do this, you're gonna flunk out. If you don't do this, you're gonna flunk out. And Leon Holly and I stood up. I hope Leon's not watching. He'll be embarrassed. I put him in there. But so we just stood up and said, well, we're not gonna put up with this because we don't want. She just yelled at us, say, you two sit back down. I know your parents, sit back down. But she became an informal mentor for us at Indian River. And then there was a white teacher who I ended up my senior year. I was editor of the newspaper. She reinforced my writing skills and told me that I could do whatever I wanted to do in a quiet way. Mrs. Stafford was her name. And in college, all of my teachers at Hampton were great. I mentioned Dr. Alexis at Northwestern was a good professional mentor. And I mean, I've been blessed with a lot of people who basically shared and basically reinforced the fact that you can do whatever you want to do.
Yeah, I always ask that question because as you go through life and you get certain accolades or you make some strides, like you mentioned about being the first Black economic director in Virginia, sometimes you think about certain people,
Oh, yeah.
certain things they said to you and say, it just reminds you of those people. And then you go back and say, wow, that really was an influence on me. And you hadn't thought about it in years. So it's
Yeah,
always
no.
something. It's the
Yeah, no,
village of people that help us.
no, because I can remember when Lauren, my oldest daughter, was at Norcom, and I think that's why people think I went to Norcom because I was the
Yeah,
president of the
yeah.
PTA, sorry.
You were
And
always there.
I remember, yep, I remember Mrs. Buck at IC Norcom had a great impact on Lauren.
Hmm.
I mean, she basically told her, "You can be a doctor if you work hard."
And she
And
wasn't thinking. She wasn't thinking about that. That wasn't one of her goals at a young age.
she said, I remember Karen and I was going through some old paperwork. She said when they wrote some sort of paper, I said, "What do you want to do?" And she said, "I either want to go into medicine or I want to be a secretary." And we
Wow,
told her,
what a contrast.
she was in middle school, by the way. So yeah, but I commend Norcom on having a positive effect on not only me as a parent, but on with both of my daughters.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, and Matthew, let me go to your economic development director when you came to Portsmouth, and
Hmm.
all those things you talked about earlier led you to Portsmouth. And when you got to Portsmouth, I guess you kind of knew if you lived working in Chesapeake, you kind of knew what to expect. So how was that experience? I mean, how were you accepted? And I always tell people that when you were the director of economic development, I was on the planning commission, and especially in the beginning. So you always offered me help, because we come on those commissions, we don't know everything. We don't know everything. So I really appreciated, the help you gave me. Anyway, how was coming into Portsmouth? And you came at a time when I think Mayor Holly used to call it the Renaissance of Portsmouth, when we were really trying to do some things and make some strides, moving forward so how was that?
It was fascinating. I mean, I it was I tell you, not everybody wanted wanted me. They were kind of surprised I got the job. I remember a council person who I won't name said, "I guess we're going to get more Black businesses now." Uh, and
You,
I
you,
just
you
like,
know, I have to say this. We talk about how bold people are now. They've always been.
yeah, yeah,
They've always
yeah. I
been
mean,
that bold, especially.
yeah. And I remember at the time the city manager Wayne Orton said, "Matthew, look, you're old enough to be." I was 35. He said, "You're old enough to be president of the United States. Don't let that bother you." But it was really interesting. I think Mayor Holly and I got along. We did a really good job. People were surprised. We actually we actually led the state one quarter in new business development recruitment. And when I left, one of the final we did the program with the Port Center, and when I
Mhm.
left, one of my final projects was the Renaissance Hotel.
Yeah, and you also there when we had the cooperation between Suffolk and Portsmouth. We had that joint venture
Hmm.
right on the Portsmouth and Suffolk line. I think
Right.
you were director
Yeah.
then, and
Yeah.
that was kind of new for the area, and it's still there now.
Yeah. So I mean, I really enjoyed, not only, I was very happy that the way that they not only embraced me, but embraced my family. And that's why we're still living in Portsmouth now.
Yeah, yeah. We were lucky to have you. So during that time, and I don't know if something happened in between that, as far as a different opportunity, but I remember you going for elected office. Now, I mean, I know it wasn't on your radar. It might have been, because sometimes you be in a certain position and you might be thinking about it. So, but you need that little push from people. Sometimes other people see things in you before you do. And I don't know if that was the case here, but were you thinking about possibly running for elective office, or were you
Well,
kind of
actually,
encouraged because we needed someone with your
yeah.
qualifications in that position?
Yeah, well, actually, it was. How can I say it? It was. I was. I had left Portsmouth, and I was running a 7-city county economic development
I
organization,
remember that. Yeah.
and I was actually thinking about running for, because of my, on the PTA. I was actually thinking about, because I used to always gripe about, school divisions and that kind of stuff. I was actually thinking about running for school board. But I talked to my board, because I reported to a board, and the timing wasn't good on that,
Hmm.
and so I decided not to follow through on it. But it's funny, I got a call from Mayor Holly, and he said, "I'll support you if you want to run." But so I ended up not running for that. But make a long story short, I was Ken Melvin had become a judge, so there was an open seat,
Right.
and I was at a meeting, and they were talking about we needed some new people to get in there, some new blood, and it was funny. I looked and I said, well, I might be interested in it, and so by the time I got home, my wife met me at the door and said, "Do you know what you just did?" So, so to make a long story short, we ran with the help of folks like Senator Lucas and Costello Williams and some bunch
Hmm.
of other good friends. I ran as a business guy because that's what I understood, and never really had a campaign manager, by the way. As a matter of fact, one of my campaign managers was my wife. She's
Yeah.
still telling me about that now. So,
And your sister was heavily involved, I
and my
remember.
and my sister Brenda was out in the field, and we just had a bunch of friends, and we just walked neighborhoods. We didn't
Yeah,
have a
I
lot of.
remember walking out there. But
Yeah, yeah,
yeah,
and so we won. We had a really tight primary, but we defeated. And I ran into him at the State of the City. He still remembers this. Doug Smith.
yeah,
Yeah, we defeated him, and we won. And then we served for 10 years in the General Assembly, and I was blessed to get some pretty good assignments over time on appropriations, and I was one of the chief negotiators for Amazon 2 up in Northern Virginia, and actually got a chance to do the uh, what do you call it? Speak at the announcement up in Northern Virginia. So that was it. I mean, it was like, if I can't say I thought about doing that, uh, but it really felt like it was a good time to do that. And so that was about it. I wasn't one of those folks who said that was an aspirational goal for me to just be an elected official. I'm happy. I'm blessed. I hope I think I served the citizens well during that time. So,
yeah. I think one thing too that stood out with you, you just wanted to run on your merits. It was during a time just like now where it was a lot of mudslinging, and people, in order they figured the best way to get in office is to throw mud at the other the candidate.
oh
If
yeah,
you could find something, but you wanted to run on your own merit, and I think the timing was right because at that time the city of Portsmouth needed someone at the state house that had a business background, experience in business, because that's what we were trying to do in Portsmouth then. Like I mentioned about the Renaissance, trying to do some things and move Portsmouth forward at that time. So we needed someone that had that experience, and you fit the bill. Yeah, so that must tell me this. You said
Yeah.
10 years. So how many years during those whole 10 years was it a Democratic governor? I don't think so, but I'm trying to figure
Mm,
out how long did the Democrats have real power there, because I remember talking to you sometimes near the end. I think it was a real struggle for the delegates to try to get some things going because of the makeup of the House.
yeah, no, it was okay. The when I first got elected, it was this last 2 years of Governor McDonnell, who was a
Oh,
Republican. Then Ralph,
we
then
we talking about the guy that stuck us with the poles,
yeah,
the toes, not the poles, the toes.
we tried to talk him out of that. He
Yeah,
was very adamant about. He was big on privatization. And I remember talking to him, and he was like, "Well, if you can find a product on the phone book, you should privatize it." He tried to privatize ABC stores,
yeah,
and
yeah,
we told them that that doesn't make sense because you won't have a balanced budget because you got a perfect monopoly. You want to raise more money, all you got to do is raise the prices.
yeah,
But if you privatize it, and I think what convinced him was they had the plan to do the privatization. A company did. They wanted to do it at three levels: big warehouse stores, and then Food Lion stores, and then 7-Elevens. And we were able to mobilize a lot of the clergy people and saying that you're going to have liquor stores in your neighborhood. And they were like, "Oh, okay, no, that ain't going to work." So
yeah,
he
yeah.
backed off of that. But unfortunately, and unfortunately, Portsmouth became the picture child for toll reform in the
Yeah,
sense that uh, when when Governor McDonnell signed the bill for the toll, he did not have to come to the General Assembly. He had the power to do it with his Secretary of Transportation without going to the General Assembly. So we changed that. And we also changed other measurements so that no future governor could do that, but the damage was already done.
yeah,
We
yeah.
never saw the contract until it was signed.
Yeah, and I wanted to bring that. I had to mention that because I just want to let people know that didn't know that how hard y'all fought that, you know.
Oh yeah,
But it's just the numbers just that weren't in your favor,
yeah.
at that particular time.
Yeah. I mean, because the following governor, Governor McAuliffe, actually bought out. He had a similar. McDonald had signed a similar deal for what 460. And that project was so early on that he was able to get enough money in the budget to buy that one out, and they stopped that. I don't know if you remember that.
Yeah,
Yeah, but unfortunately, we became the poster child that now, if even if they wanted to do it, you have to have a free way to do it. We didn't have that,
yeah.
and other things, and I applaud the current General Assembly, Speaker Scott and Senator Lucas, in terms of getting some toll relief for those
Some
people.
relief.
Yeah,
That's the only
yeah,
thing we can do right now
right,
is
right.
provide relief.
But to answer your question, all 10 years that I was in the General Assembly, we never had a majority in the House.
Oh, I didn't realize the whole 10 years. I remember, always talking to you and you, saying how difficult it was, but y'all were still getting things done even with that. And I think it was being able to cross the aisles many times,
Yeah,
and have compromise that worked out for the best of both sides. But
yeah.
now it's even kind of hard to do that. But go ahead.
No. I was going to say one of the things that we and I applaud. Unfortunately, he just passed away. He became a judge, Ansley Ware, and some other
Mhm.
people. Luke, chairman of appropriations now. He was my seatmate, and other folks. There were times that you would come up in Richmond, and we would be in a private room, and it would be Republicans and Democrats in the same room. We couldn't agree on everything, but we could agree to talk. and to make it civil. And that was one of the things that I enjoyed. And I know towards the end of my 10 years, I noticed that some of that was going away. People weren't really that open for compromise. It was their way or no way. And now that we're in the majority, we can still get some things done. But there was a pretty good willingness at the within the House that there you could cross party lines, and
Yeah,
quite frankly, there were some bills that I voted uh, against my caucus
yeah,
because it made sense for me. For example, they wanted to do something. At the time, I not only represented Portsmouth, but I represented Norfolk Southern, and they had a bill that would damage Norfolk Southern in Norfolk. And I told my caucus leader, I can't vote for this. And he got mad. So what? I
yeah.
represent the people, and it was surprising to me that um, he had promised the governor unanimous Democratic votes, and about 5 or 6 other Democrats followed me, and he didn't speak to me for a while, but that's okay. I
Yeah,
just
but,
told him,
but
I
that's what we
just
want.
told him he can't vote for me, so he's fine.
Yeah, that's what we want. We want the people to, use their good judgment and make decisions depending on the best interest for the people. And sometimes you have to do that, and sometimes people get mad. But for the most part, and what I appreciated about you too, Matthew, when you came home and made your rounds and talking to the people that you represented, you were upfront and
You
honest about,
you kind of broke up on me there.
I'm sorry, you were up close and honest and explain your vote. So
Yeah,
sometimes we get to the point where we start breaking up. So we're gonna wrap it up a little bit, but I want to go into after the elected office. You got some state appointments by the governor, and
yeah,
one of them was I think the first appointment you were appointed by Democratic governor, and then when it changed over to Republican, they kept you, which in normal cases they clean out house, and make
right.
sure Republicans hold those positions. So that says a lot for you. So how was that experience being in a position like you were, and tell about the position, and but being under a Republican governorship.
Okay. Yeah, I used to always joke with Governor Northern about, if you don't need my vote, I'd love to come work with you with the administration. So he gave me a call, and his staff did, and he said he wanted to appoint me to join his economic development team. So my official title was I was chief deputy for the General Services uh, Agency. And basically, what that is everything in terms of procurement, building, cleaning was underneath me as a deputy. And we built, for example, the new General Assembly building, all the tunnels. We supervised the renovation of City Hall. We built a new ABC store, 400,000 square feet. But probably the one that I had the most fun doing was he asked me to be one of his point people to assist in taking down the Confederate monuments that we could. I was involved in that, and Karen, I remember my wife called me up one time, and she said, "You're on the front page of the Virginian Pilot," and it was a picture of Governor Northern and I uh, watching the Robert E. Lee statue be taken down. So I did that for 2 years, and then Governor Northern, he was still governor at the time, he asked me to take over the agency head for the small business and supplier diversity. So I did that, thinking that another Democrat was going to win. Terry McCullough was running. So I said,
Hmm.
okay, I'll head that agency up, and we did a marvelous job of reducing turnaround time, doing some good stuff. But lo and behold, Governor Youngkin wins.
Hmm.
So um, it was so I was
You kind of figured you were out of there.
I figured I was out of there. But some of my and this is where it comes across and reaching across the aisle. Some of my Republican friends and the other people said, "How many years? How much time do you need to round out your retirement?" And I told them, and so I worked approximately for about 8 or 9 months under the governor, under his secretary, Republican secretary, and the joke was, because I was spending time during the day in Richmond. The joke was it took the governor 9 months to find out I was a Democrat. So, but it all worked out well. So
That might have been more reality than a joke, you know.
yeah, I think so too. I
Yeah,
think so
because
too. So
that
that was
usually
that.
doesn't happen. But if you're doing a good job, you know, they can't deny the fact that you're doing a good job, whether you're Democrat or Republican. So I
Well,
think that really was the case.
yeah, and because we improved the metrics. I don't know how you're familiar with that agency. They got a lot of folks who are working hard. We decreased the turnaround time. We increased the number of companies that were certifying SWAM businesses. Staff was doing a great job. Um, there was no reason to change other than the fact that, yeah.
Yeah.
And yeah, I got the obligatory phone call from the secretary saying, "I want to thank you for your service and this and that." And I was like, "Fine." And I even, my dad and my mom used to always say, "You don't burn bridges." I even agreed to sit and train the guy who replaced me.
Yeah.
So I spent 2 weeks with him, explaining, "Here are the plans. Here are the things we need to do." Da 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 da. So that was it.
Yeah. Yeah. That's what happens in those
So
cases. So, yeah.
yeah,
And
so
go
then I
ahead. Go
came
ahead.
I came home, and then this past General Assembly session, I got an appointment from the General Assembly to be on the Board of Trustees of the Virginia Retirement System.
Yep. And it
So
still
in
came
addition,
back to you, you know,
yeah,
under the
I know,
Republican governorship. So that
right?
speaks volumes as well. And Matthew, as we wind down, I want to say thank you. And I want to mention your wife, Karen, Attorney Karen James,
Hmm.
a big part of what's going on in Portsmouth as well, and a good friend to Benet and I. So I just had to bring her up. But mention your two daughters again. I want to make sure most people know who they are. Of course, Lauren at one time was the director of the health department here in the
Correct,
city of Portsmouth.
correct.
Uh, we appreciated that. So
Yep, yep. And she's doing good. I talked to her as recently as this morning. You got two little grandbabies. She went down to say she had a reunion at Spelman College, which she went undergrad to.
yeah,
And,
yeah.
and my youngest daughter, Kelly, I never would have thought she would have followed in my footsteps, but she now works in Richmond with the Department of Economic Development.
Oh wow.
And she is on the business recruitment side. As a matter of fact, one of the companies that she helped to bring to Virginia was Lego.
Well, that's great to hear. Two fine, I see no congrats. I had to throw that in.
Yep.
But yeah,
Yep.
we'll close out now. But I want to mention now you kind of went full circle, like we talked about earlier. You're a member of the EDA, which is the
Hmm.
Economic Development Authority, a group of citizens that sit on an authority that you used to uh, be involved with as director of economic development authorities, and it's also a board that I served on as well. So very important board as far as bringing economic development to our city, and you are the ones, that board is the ones, because the city can't do some of the things that the economic development authority can do, and that's their purpose. That's why they were formed. So
Right.
to talk about how did that come about? Was that something you were seeking, or again, seems like people always come to you,
I-
but you go to
I-
people who you think that can do a great job in certain positions.
yeah.
So
Yeah.
that's what happens.
Yeah, I was at a Virginia Economic Developers Association conference
So you're
because
still involved that way. Yeah.
I'm one of the past presidents. Matter of fact, I'm
Mhm.
only the African American president they've ever had, male or female. So I ran into Brian, the economic development director, and we were talking about things, and I told him, I said, well, if you ever need any help, let me know. And then he followed up with that and said, well, would you want to be on the EDA board? And I said, yeah, I'd be considered, because I was excited about I was reading about some of the opportunities that Portsmouth has. And, Portsmouth has always been deep in my heart, because what they've done for me, I can never repay them for. So
Mhm.
if I can serve them in any way, and I had a feeling that they were going to move forward finally on some of the redevelopment on the waterfront. And the EDA is doing a wonderful job right now. As you know, with grants, most people don't realize what they do and the
Right.
impact. But, just to be a small player or part in that I can give some knowledge to them, I couldn't walk away from that. And I said,
Yeah. And
when I was asked if I was interested, that was fine. And then the next thing I know, I got a note from Deborah White saying, "Well, we voted on you, so congratulations." So
yeah, yeah. And I think the timing is right to have someone like yourself, along with the other members of the board who also contribute with their experience and knowledge. Now that you might finally get to the part of moving that jail, or
yeah,
since the deal has been made with the regional jail, so it might really happen now. So
yeah,
the
and
timing is good to have someone with your experience on there,
well,
with the
thank you. I
history.
appreciate that.
Yeah,
I appreciate that, and I think that's going to be really fascinating, because I was telling some of the board members and staff that this is a once in a lifetime opportunity for anybody. You don't get a lot of chances uh, to do this, to have this kind of impact on a city. So um, we're real excited about that, and we want to make
yes.
sure we get it right.
So we'll be paying attention and looking forward to whatever comes from the Economic Development Board, Authority, and our elected officials. And I want to remind everybody, remember, elections have consequences, sometimes good, sometimes bad. So make sure you get out there and vote. Don't
That's true.
sleep on voting, especially locally, because that's where you immediately are affected by the people you put in office. So, Matthew,
Yep.
I want to thank you for taking the time out and being here with us. We
No
appreciate you, and
worries.
hope we have an opportunity to come back at some time when we start seeing some things happening with the EDA. Uh,
Okay.
and make sure you tell Karen we said hello, and we'll
I will
see
do that.
both of you. Hope to see both of you sometime, especially with the Sunset Thursdays coming up, and that's usually a place where we go to relax every Thursday. So thanks again, and I appreciate it. And everybody, please be well, be informed, and most of all, be involved with your city, your community. And this is the Slim Nations 101's podcast, and we'll see you next time. Take
All
care.
right. Thank you, son.
It's time for us to sit down at the table and turn this chaos into something stable. For love, one on one. We will not accept defeat, not on our land, not in our streets. Getting it done. Reaching out to save the youth, letting them know the truth. Slim Nation is where good conversations dwell. Positive affirmations where